the most resilient life form known to man, the tardigrades, often called water bears or moss piglets, are near microscopic animals with long, plump bodies and scrunched up heads. They have 8 legs and hands with 4 to 8 claws on each. While strangely cute, these tiny animals almost are indestructible. The tardigrade is a phylum, a highly level scientific category of an animal. Human beings belong to the chordate phylum, animals with spinal cords. These creatures are small. They can range from about 0.5 millimeters to about 1.2 millimeters. It's less than 0.5 inches long. But they usually don't get any bigger than 1 millimeter long. Water bears can live just about anywhere. They prefer to live in a sediment at the bottom of a lake. They can survive a wide range of temperatures and situations. Researchers have found that the tardigrades can withstand environments as cold as minus 328 degrees Fahrenheit or highs of more than 300 degrees Fahrenheit, according to the Smithsonian Magazine. They can also survive radiation, boiling liquids, massive amounts of pressure up to 6 times the pressure of the deepest part of the ocean, and even the vacuum of space without any protection. In 2008, a study published by the journal Current Biology found that some species of tardigrades could also survive 10 days at low Earth orbit while being exposed to a space vacuum and radiation. In fact, water bears could survive basically after humanity is long gone. Scientists from Harvard and Oxford universities look at the probabilities of certain astronomical events: Earth pummeling by asteroids, nearby supernova blasts, and gamma ray burst, to name a few. Over the next few billion years, then they looked at how likely it'd be for these events to wipe out Earth's hardiest species. And while such catastrophic events would likely wipe out humans, the researchers found out the tardigrades would survive most of them. The researchers found that the little tardigrades would survive most of them. To our surprise, we found although nearby supernovas or large asteroid impacts would be catastrophic for people, tardigrades would be unaffected. David Sloan, a co-author of the new study of the research at Oxford, said in a statement, "Therefore, it seems that life, once it gets going, it's hard to wipe out entirely. Huge numbers of species or even a genera may become extinct, but life as a whole will go on. In many conditions, they survive by going on into an almost death-like state called cryptobiosis. They curl into a dehydrated ball, called the ton, by retracting their heads and legs. If reintroduced to the water, the tardigrade can come back to life in just a few hours. While in cryptobiosis, tardigrades' metabolic activity goes as low as 0.01% of normal levels, and their organs are protected by a surgery gel called trehalose. They also seem to make a large amount of antioxidants, which may be another way to protect their vital organs. Water bears also produce a protein that protects their DNA from radiation damage, according to research by the University of Tokyo. In cold temperatures, they form into a special ton that prevents the growth of ice crystals. They also have another defense when they're in water. When the water they live in is low on oxygen, well, they stretch out and allow their metabolic rate to reduce. In this state, their muscles absorb oxygen and water well enough that they can survive. And this recent discovery revived 2 tons and an egg that had been in cryptobiosis for more than 30 years. The experiment was reported in the Journal of Cryobiology. Reports from an experiment in 1948 claimed that the ton over 120 years old had been revived, but this research has never been duplicated according to the BBC. What do the tardigrades actually eat? Well, they suck on juices from algae and moss. Some species are carnivores or even cannibals. They can prey on another tardigrade according to the BBC. Tardigrades reproduce through a sexual and asexual reproduction, depending on the species. They lay 1 to 30 eggs at a time. During sexual reproduction, the female will lay eggs and the males will fertilize them. in an asexual reproduction. The female will lay the eggs and then they will develop without fertilization. Tardigrades have not been evaluated by the International Union for Conservation of Nature. They are also not on any other endangered list and have survived 5 mass extinctions over the course of around 500 million years, according to the National Geographic. The water bear's mouth can telescope outward to reveal sharp teeth and are used to grab onto food. They actually can swim. They have multiple legs that propel water bears forward to reach the food. What's your thoughts on the tardigrades? Are these the possible life forms that populated Earth itself, traveling far distances from universes far, far away, across space itself, with no nutrients required and a hibernation that could exist and last for an unknown time? They could have made the long trip across the universe and ended up right here on Earth. And they could be here a lot longer than humans themselves. What's your thoughts? Are these the true aliens of Earth? Let me know in your comments below. On location at Kawaihae Harbor on the Big Island, we're going to be speaking with Hawaiian Operations Manager Vas Podorian. Vas, how did you come up with the idea of the Wave Glider? How did it come about?
The Wave Glider came about in an effort to transmit whale songs ashore, specifically into one of the founders' living rooms.
Can you tell us why here in Hawaii?
One of the founders actually lives here in Puako. A lot of the efforts that occurred originally to pipe the whale songs into the living room really occurred there. And it was sort of a natural progression here in Puako.
If you look at the design on this, it exactly resembles sky rods or, the skyfish. Absolutely incredible. What is the theory behind the design?
So the main theory behind the Wave Glider is that we take vertical wave motion at the surface and turn it into forward motion of the vehicle. That really essentially happens with our ability to harness vertical wave motion into direct forward thrust. Very similar, really in effect to when you stick your hand out the window on the freeway and tilt it, its lift is created and creates the sort of forward motion with your hand.
What's the maximum speed that these things can travel over the surface of the water with the glider underneath?
We do somewhere typically between 1.5 and 1.8 knots.
And it's using entirely the force and the swells of the ocean to self-power itself, correct?
Absolutely. So we basically turn vertical wave motion into forward thrust.
Canada, France, and Keck are here in Hawaii, and there's something special about it, and you're here in Hawaii. Can you tell us what makes it so special?
Much for the same reasons that they're here, in the sense of the environment that it gives us for testing and evaluation. It allows us to essentially test about 300 days a year. We have the ability, being right here in Kawaihae, we have easy access to some very dynamic sea states. We can be right out here on the west side off of Kawaihae, and the weather can be very, very calm, much like it is today. We can go just a few miles out around the point, up towards Upolu Point, and be out in Alenuihaha Channel, which is a pretty intense marine environment.
Well, it's going to be quite amazing. A little bit later, we're going to be on location, going out on the boat and seeing on how the Wave Glider works. I can't wait, but I got a couple other questions for you. Can we take a look at the warehouse in the back?
Absolutely.
All right. The CEO of your company claims that 90% of the Earth's oceans have still yet to be discovered. We know more about space than the ocean. Do you think it's possible that these craft could capture on film, since they have the cameras, a creature that we still don't know, some kind of leviathan?
I would say that that's plausible. The vehicle is a data harvesting tool, so any number of sensors are integrated into the vehicle, so depending on what you're trying to measure and look for, I would say that it's possible, for sure.
Well, you might get lucky one of these days capturing the smoking gun footage of an amazing creature right there on the surface of the ocean.
That would be exciting. So we have the ability to communicate with the vehicle through satellite connection. That occurs through this dome here. This is an Iridium satellite connection. We have the ability to stream all of our data, as well as telemetry and communication information through that connection.
What's the lifetime of the Wave Glider?
They're currently, essentially we like to keep them out anywhere from 6 to 12 months.
Well, these things, what is the price range for one of these?
This vehicle, as you see here, runs between 175 and about 200,000.
Wow, do you worry about maybe pirates out on the open ocean coming across one of these things and, taking these things out and selling it on the market?
Well, I don't think we've had any stolen that I'm aware of. They're an incredibly difficult vehicle to actually to recover if you're not trained to do it.
Boss, who is your biggest client for the Wave Glider?
Right now, we have essentially probably a shared market between the oil and gas business and the Department of Defense.
Wow, what is the Department of Defense using with the Wave Glider?
I don't know if I can answer that.
I want to talk about your biggest, or one of the biggest clients, big oil industry. If there were a natural disaster, big oil spill in the ocean, could these Wave Gliders help and clean in the assistance?
Absolutely. So recently we've assisted in cleanup efforts, more specifically more measurement efforts, in that it's a data harvesting tool. We have the ability to measure essentially what's in the water, and the Wave Glider is actually quite effective at that.
Well, speaking of getting into the water, I can't wait to get in the water and see these things in action.
Absolutely.
The production crew and I are briefed on safety instructions. Free diving in the Pacific is serious business. All right, boss, we're on location on the boat. How long is it going to take us to get out to the first Wave Glider?
About 10 to 15 minutes.
All right, well, we're on the adventure. I can't wait to get in the water. Departing from Kawaihae Harbor, we're in search of the Wave Glider, approximately 8 miles off the coast of the Big Island, and we're going to be using GPS coordinates to track it down. Now the adventure begins, and the ocean conditions are perfect, and the captain tells us we will be arriving at our destination momentarily. Now I'm excited to see this new technology known as the Wave Glider swimming in the Pacific Ocean. I think I see it, boss. Is that it?
Yeah, it's right there off the starboard side.
All right, we're getting in close and we're gonna see what the Wave Glider looks like in action. This is about as good as what perpetual motion gets, right out here, taking energy from the water and the swells.
Absolutely. As long as we have surface motion of the waves, we have thrust, which allows us to move forward through the water.
Now, how deep is the ocean here? Because I'm quite, afraid of sharks. Are there big ones you see out here?
Sometimes we do see large creatures. We're in about 170 fathoms of water right now.
All right, well, let's get our dive gear on and hit the water.
Absolutely.
Now this is when Vospodorian gets to work, suiting up and taking a look at the Wave Glider down below. The production crew's ready, cameras are in the water, and we're about to get into it right now. As we approach the Wave Glider to get a closer look, I think to myself, this is the first world's wave powered autonomous marine robot designed to help address the big challenges the world faces, including global climate change, national security, hurricane and tsunami warnings. As we approach the Wave Glider and seeing it in action, it almost seems as if it's alive. Because of the energy independence, Wave Gliders are able to persistently gather and communicate ocean data on a far broader scale and with greater timelines than ever before, at a fraction of the cost of traditional solutions. They open up new abilities to map and explore for resources, to protect and secure marine assets, or to conduct groundbreaking scientific research. From the Arctic to the equator, Wave Gliders are expanding our ability to understand the world's oceans, upon which we depend for food, trade, economics, and the health of our environment. As we come back to the harbor, I think of the wave glider we just left behind and its continuing exploration and explanation of enormous mass amounts of information that comes into them every day. The dawn of recorded history and the digital age will change history forever, and liquid robotics and the wave gliders around the world will continuously update the human race.